Questions. My dear friends, have you ever noticed the world sleeps when dreams are born? The world wakes up when dreams die. And between 4 and 6 in the morning, there lies a secret that sages, saints, questions, CEOs and successful people all whisper about. It's called the Brahma Muhurta, the Creator's hour, the time when the universe itself seems to say, wake up, my child. Questions. I have something for you today. So pauses, questions, smileless. But of course, most of us at that time are deeply engaged in an Olympic level sport. Pillow hugging. So audience laughs. We have dreams, goals, questions, ambitions, but the only thing we rise for is the snooze button. Friends, waking up at 4 a.m. is not just about discipline. It's about alignment. Alignment with nature. Questions. Alignment with your purpose. Alignment with yourself. Questions. The question is not can you wake up early? The question is, do you want to meet the best version of yourself? A few years ago, I met a young man, full of dreams, questions, but always tired. He said, Gaur Gopal Dasji, I want success, but my days just vanish. I asked him, what time do you wake up? He said, around 9 a.m. I smiled and said, questions. Then success wakes up before you. So audience chuckles. I told him, try waking up at 4 a.m. for 21 days. He resisted at first, but he tried. On the 5th day, he said, questions. I feel peaceful. On the 10th, I feel powerful. On the 21st, he said, I feel unstoppable. Because when you wake up at 4 a.m., my friends, questions. You don't just gain hours, you gain life. Questions. Have you ever stepped outside at 4 in the morning? The world looks almost magical. The streets are empty, the air feels lighter, and the only sound you might hear is your own heartbeat. Questions. It's as if the whole universe has pressed the pause button just for you. No traffic noise, no phone ringing, no notifications, just silence. But here's the beauty of it. Questions. That silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. Most people run from silence because they've never learned to be comfortable with their own thoughts. Questions. We are surrounded by noise all day. The noise of people, phones, notifications, opinions, comparisons, and deadlines. From the moment we wake up, our mind is constantly reacting. Questions. We rarely get time to listen to what's going on inside. And that's where the 4 a.m. magic begins. When you wake up at this sacred hour, you step into a world that belongs only to you. Questions. You finally meet the person who's been waiting to speak to you all along, yourself. You see, silence at 4 a.m. is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of clarity. In that quiet, questions, you begin to see your life as it is, not through the filters of social media or the opinions of others, but through the lens of truth. You begin to notice how you feel, what you truly want, questions, and where you are going. It's like looking into a still lake. When the surface is calm, you can see the reflection clearly. But when there's chaos, everything blurs. Questions. Let me share a simple example. Imagine two people starting their day. The first person wakes up at 8 a.m., rushes to check their phone, scrolls through messages, questions, and suddenly feels anxious because someone else seems to be doing better in life. They rush through breakfast, get stuck in traffic, and by the time they reach work, questions, they've already exhausted half their energy reacting to the world. The second person wakes up at 4 a.m. They sit in silence for a few minutes, maybe with a cup of tea or a journal. They breathe, pray, questions, or meditate. They think about the day ahead, visualize what kind of energy they want to bring into it. There's no hurry, no noise, just awareness. When the world wakes up, questions, they are already centered, calm, and clear. Tell me, which person is more likely to live intentionally? Which person is more likely to lead, not react? This is the power of silence. Questions. It's not passive, it's transformative. In the stillness of 4 a.m., your creativity starts whispering ideas. Your conscience starts guiding your actions. Questions. Your heart starts reminding you of what truly matters. Great thinkers, artists, monks, and scientists throughout history have all understood this. Questions. They all valued quiet mornings because that's when inspiration arrives, softly, gently, without shouting. Think of your mind like a smartphone. If you open too many apps, the battery drains fast. Questions. But if you shut down everything and restart, suddenly it works faster, smoother, better. Silence is that restart button for the soul. It recharges you from within. Questions. That's why people who practice early morning silence seem calmer, more peaceful, more grounded. They don't need to shout to be heard. Their presence speaks louder than words. Questions. And this is not just spiritual poetry, even science supports it. Questions. Studies show that early morning solitude lowers cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and increases dopamine, the motivation chemical. Questions. Your brain waves at that hour shift from the restless beta state to the calm alpha state, where ideas focus and peace naturally flow. Questions. That's why so many great minds, from writers to athletes, call early mornings their creative zone. But let's be real, waking up at 4 a.m. isn't easy at first. Questions. Your mind will fight it. Your bed will whisper, stay with me, just 5 more minutes. But remember, every time you choose silence over sleep, you are choosing progress over comfort. Questions. You are choosing growth over excuses. Slowly, this silence becomes your favorite part of the day. Not because it's quiet outside, but because it becomes peaceful inside. Questions. When you sit in that silence, try this small habit, close your eyes and ask yourself 3 questions. What am I grateful for today? What do I need to focus on today? Questions. What kind of energy do I want to carry today? You'll be amazed, your mind begins to answer. Not loudly, but gently, like a whisper from within. Questions. And those whispers are powerful because they come from truth, not from fear. Silence at 4 a.m. also helps heal relationships. Because when you start your day calm, you speak to others with kindness. Questions. When you start your day with peace, you spread it without even trying. Your words become softer, your tone becomes patient, and your presence itself becomes comforting to others. Questions. People who live with you, work with you, or even meet you briefly can feel that difference. You stop reacting from chaos and start responding from calmness. And the best part, questions. The silence of 4 a.m. doesn't just stay in the morning. It travels with you through the day. You become that person who doesn't panic when things go wrong, who listens before replying. Questions. Who stays balanced even in storms. That's the true reward of this practice. So the next time your alarm rings before dawn and you're tempted to pull the blanket over your head, questions, remember this. The silence waiting outside isn't just quiet air. It's your own soul calling you home. It's life giving you a chance to reset, to refocus, to reconnect. Questions. The world will wake up in noise and hurry, but you will have already met yourself in stillness. Because sometimes, my friends, the loudest answers come in the quietest moments. Questions. The world might admire those who speak well, but life rewards those who listen deeply. And that deep listening begins at 4 a.m. when silence speaks the loudest. Questions. Have you ever noticed how fresh and peaceful the world feels at dawn? The air is cool, the birds begin to sing, and the sky slowly changes its colors from darkness to light. Questions. That is exactly how your mind feels at 4 a.m. Like a clean, untouched canvas waiting for you to paint something beautiful on it. The chaos of yesterday is gone. Questions. The noise of the world hasn't started yet, and you have a chance to decide what kind of day and what kind of life you want to create. When you wake up early, your mind is like a calm lake. Questions. Whatever you drop into it, first thing in the morning creates ripples that last the whole day. If you fill it with peace, gratitude, and purpose, your day naturally flows with that same energy. Questions. But if the first thing you do is grab your phone, scroll through social media, and compare your life to others, Those ripples become waves of anxiety. Questions. What we put into our mind in the first hour after waking shapes our emotions, our focus, and even our decisions for the next 16 hours. Imagine these two friends, Raj and Aimam. Questions. Both have the same goals. They want to grow in their careers, stay healthy, and be happy. Raj wakes up at 4 a.m., spends 15 minutes meditating, writes in his journal, reads something uplifting, questions, and sets 3 clear intentions for the day. Ayman wakes up at 8:30, rushes to get ready, checks his phone while brushing his teeth, and leaves home already feeling late and scattered. Questions. Both of them face the same world, but their minds are completely different. Raj enters his day with clarity and direction. Aman steps into his with confusion and rush. The result? Raj controls his day. Questions. Aman gets controlled by it. The human mind is powerful but fragile. It absorbs whatever it is fed. Questions. That's why it's so important to feed it consciously when it's most receptive. In the early hours. At 4 a.m., your subconscious mind is wide open. It's like fertile soil waiting for seeds. Questions. If you plant positive thoughts, affirmations, or prayers, they take root deeply. But if you plant worry, complaints, or comparison, questions, those too will grow, and they'll shape the way you see everything. Think about it. The first thought you think when you wake up is like setting the GPS of your mind. If you wake up saying questions, I'm tired, your brain spends the whole day looking for proof that you are. But if you wake up saying, I'm grateful, I'm blessed, questions, and I'm ready, your brain starts scanning the world for reasons to feel that way. You don't change your day by working harder. You change it by thinking better. Questions. Here's a small daily life example. Have you ever woken up late, spilled your coffee, got stuck in traffic, and said, this is going to be a bad day? And somehow everything after that was bad. Questions. That's not coincidence, that's mindset. The mind works like a magnet. What you focus on expands. If your morning begins with negativity, it multiplies. But if your morning begins with calmness, questions, it multiplies too. So, when your mind is fresh at 4 a.m., treat it like a new diary. Write something beautiful in it, even if it's just one line of gratitude. Maybe something like questions. I'm alive today. I'm breathing. I have another chance. These are not just words. They are seeds. Over time. They grow into a tree of resilience and positivity. Many people say questions. I'll start my day positive once life becomes easier. But life doesn't become easier. We become stronger. And that strength begins with how we use our first thoughts. Questions. The mind doesn't need much to change. It just needs direction. And 4 a.m. gives you the perfect opportunity to direct it consciously before the world fills it with distractions. Questions. Another powerful thing about the early morning mind is its creativity. Have you ever noticed how your best ideas often come when you're relaxed? In the shower, on a walk, or just before sleeping? Questions. That's because the mind is quiet and open. At 4 a.m., the same thing happens, but even more powerfully. Writers, musicians, scientists, questions, and spiritual masters have all used this time to create and connect. They understood that inspiration doesn't shout, it whispers. And those whispers are only heard when the mind is still. Questions. But in daily life, we often lose that stillness. Our mornings begin with rushing, multitasking, worrying, or complaining. We forget that our mind is not a dumping ground, it's a sacred space. Questions. You wouldn't pour garbage on a clean floor, so why pour negativity into a fresh mind? Protect that first hour like it's gold. No phone, no social media, no news. Just you with yourself. Questions. Read something inspiring, listen to peaceful music, sit in silence, pray, or simply breathe. Let your mind absorb peace before it absorbs pressure. There's a beautiful saying. Questions. The first hour is the mother of the next 23. If your first hour is calm, your day will carry that calmness. If it's chaotic, your day will reflect that too. Questions. The world outside may be noisy, unpredictable, and demanding, but the world inside can be peaceful if you choose to build it that way. I once met a woman who was always smiling. Questions. No matter what happened, I asked her, "How are you so peaceful all the time?" She smiled and said, "Questions. Because I clean my mind every morning before the world makes it dirty again." What a beautiful thought. We take a shower for our body every day. But what about the mind? Questions. Waking up early gives you the time to take that mental shower, to wash away yesterday's stress and start fresh. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm rings and your bed feels warm. Questions. Remember this, your mind is waiting for you like a blank page. What will you write on it? Complaints or gratitude? Doubt or confidence? Fear or faith? The choice is always yours. Questions. The mind is a clean slate at 4 a.m., pure, open, and full of potential. What you draw on it becomes the story of your day. And when you learn to start each morning painting your mind with peace, questions, your whole life slowly becomes a masterpiece. Questions. Have you ever watched the sunrise in silence? The darkness slowly melts away, the sky turns golden, and the first rays of sunlight touch the world with a quiet promise. A new beginning. Questions. In that moment, nature is not rushing. The sun doesn't rise a second too early or a second too late. The birds don't sing out of tune. The wind doesn't compete with the trees. Questions. Everything moves in perfect rhythm. That's the beauty of nature. It has a timing, a balance, a flow. And when we align ourselves with that rhythm, our lives begin to flow too. Questions. Human beings are a part of nature, but we often live as if we are separate from it. We stay awake long after the world has gone to sleep. Questions. Scrolling through our phones or working under artificial lights. We sleep while the sun rises, missing the most powerful hours of natural energy. Then we wonder why we feel tired, anxious, questions, and disconnected. It's because our rhythm is out of tune with the rhythm of life itself. At 4 a.m., nature begins to wake up. The air is fresher, oxygen levels are higher. Questions. And even the energy around you feels cleaner. It's the time when the mind is calm, the heart is open, and the body is naturally ready to absorb positivity. In the scriptures, questions. This time is called Brahma Muhurta, the Creator's hour. It's the time when the earth's vibration and the human body's vibration are in harmony. When you wake up at that time, questions, you don't just start your day early. You start it in sync with the universe. Think of your life like music. When an instrument is in tune, the sound it produces is sweet, soothing, and powerful. Questions. But when it's out of tune, even the most talented musician can't make it sound right. Our bodies and minds are instruments. If they are in tune with nature's rhythm, life feels smooth. Questions. When they are not, even small challenges feel like noise. Waking up at 4 a.m. is how you tune yourself to peace, focus, and energy. Here's a simple daily life example. Questions. Suppose you have a smartphone. If you charge it during the day when it's already being used for calls, apps, and browsing, it doesn't charge efficiently. But if you plug it in at night, questions. When it's idle, it charges faster and lasts longer. The same is true for your body and mind. When you rest during the night and wake up with the rising sun, your energy recharges fully. Questions. But if you sleep late, wake up late, and fight against nature's timing, your energy never feels complete. No matter how much you sleep, our ancestors understood this well. Questions. Before the invention of clocks and screens, people lived according to the sun. They rose with its first light and rested soon after it set. As a result, they were more grounded, connected, questions, and peaceful. They didn't need energy drinks or stress tablets. Nature itself was their healer. But now we've reversed the cycle. Questions. We stay up when the world sleeps and sleep when the world awakens. We have traded sunrise for screens, moonlight for midnight messages. And the cost of that trade is our inner peace. Questions. Waking up with nature helps us realign. When you rise at 4 a.m., you witness creation itself at work. The birds stretching their wings, the first breeze of dawn, the sky coloring itself with hope. Questions. You realize that life is not static, it's constantly renewing itself. And that realization fills you with quiet motivation. You start to feel that if the sun can rise again every day after darkness, questions, you too can rise again after failure, after pain, after any setback. Let's take another relatable example. Imagine a farmer. He doesn't plant seeds at midnight under fluorescent lights. Questions. He waits for the right season, the right hour, the right conditions. Why? Because he knows that working with nature's rhythm brings the best harvest. Now think. We too are farmers of our dreams. Questions. Our goals, our peace. But if we plant our efforts in the wrong rhythm, staying awake when our body needs rest, eating when we're stressed, questions, thinking when we're exhausted, how can we expect a good harvest? Aligning with nature is not just spiritual advice, it's practical wisdom. Questions. When you start living in harmony with the natural cycle, you'll notice small yet profound changes. You'll fall asleep faster, your digestion improves, your focus sharpens, questions, and your mood becomes lighter. Why? Because your body loves rhythm. It loves routine. The sun rises at the same time every day. The waves crash in patterns. Questions. The moon follows its cycle. That consistency is what keeps the planet stable. When you develop that same consistency, sleeping early, rising early, questions, eating on time, your life becomes stable too. There's also beautiful spiritual truth hidden here. Questions. When you wake up at 4 a.m. and see nature's order, how everything happens effortlessly, you realize something about your own life. You don't need to control everything. Questions. You just need to move in the right rhythm, and life will unfold gracefully. The same way the river doesn't push the water, it just flows. When you align with nature's timing, your goals too, questions, begin to flow naturally. You stop forcing outcomes and start trusting the process. Even the simple act of breathing feels different at dawn. The air is cool, questions, filled with negative ions that refresh the mind. The lungs expand better and your breath feels deeper. You can literally feel nature energizing you, whispering, questions, welcome back to the rhythm. And that rhythm stays with you throughout the day. Your mind becomes calmer, your reactions slower, and your focus sharper. Questions. You stop fighting the world and start flowing with it. So the next time you feel lost, stressed, or disconnected, don't rush to find peace in a gadget or a motivational quote. Step outside at dawn. Questions. Watch how the world wakes up. Notice how everything has a rhythm. The breeze, the birds, even your heartbeat. And tell yourself, questions, I am a part of this rhythm. When you begin your day in alignment with nature, you carry that harmony within you. You walk differently, speak differently, and think differently. Questions. You stop swimming against the current and start moving with the flow. Nature's rhythm is perfection, balanced, patient, and powerful. And when your inner rhythm matches it, questions, life stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like a song. Waking up at 4 a.m. is not about forcing discipline. It's about rediscovering the natural music you were always meant to live by. Questions. Have you ever noticed that in the quiet hours before sunrise, something feels different in the air? It's not just the cool breeze or the peaceful silence. It's the energy. Questions. The kind of energy that doesn't just awaken your body, but touches your soul. The world feels softer, lighter, almost sacred. That's because at 4 a.m., the spiritual energy around us is at its peak. Questions. The noise of the world has gone silent, and the whispers of the universe can finally be heard. Questions. Every ancient tradition, from the scriptures of India to the teachings of Zen, speaks about this magical time, often called Brahma Muhurta. Questions. The Creator's hour. It's the time when nature, mind, and spirit are in perfect alignment. The air is purer, The vibration of the earth is calmer, and the mind is free from distraction. Questions. This is why saints, sages, monks, and mystics have always risen before dawn. Not to chase time, but to connect with timelessness. When you wake up at 4 a.m. Questions. You're not just gaining more hours in your day, you're gaining power in your being. You're connecting to the same source that powers the sunrise, the wind, the oceans. Questions. You're plugging into the divine current of creation. It's like charging your soul's battery directly from the universe. Let's take a simple example from daily life. Questions. Imagine your phone is at 5% battery. You plug it in during a power surge, and it charges quickly, fully, efficiently. But if you plug it in when the connection is weak, it charges slowly. Questions. Sometimes not at all. The same happens with your spirit. During the day, your energy is scattered by work, people, stress, noise. But at 4 a.m., when the world sleeps, questions, your connection to divine energy is strongest. You receive wisdom, peace, and clarity effortlessly. In those sacred hours, even 5 minutes of meditation feels like 50. A short prayer feels deeper. Questions. And a small thought can transform your whole day. Why? Because your mind is still, and the spiritual frequency is high. You're not competing with traffic, email, questions, or endless thoughts. You're simply being. And in that being, you touch something eternal. Think about how your body needs food and your mind needs knowledge. In the same way, questions, your soul needs connection to something higher, something purer. But during the day, it's hard to feel that connection because our minds are restless. We're thinking about meetings, bills, questions, deadlines, and messages. But at 4 a.m., all that fades. The noise quiets down, and what remains is you, raw, real, ready to receive. Questions. Many successful people and spiritual teachers describe how their best insights come early in the morning. Not because they're smarter at that hour, but because they're clearer. Questions. The distractions are gone, and they are more open to intuition, that gentle voice within that always knows the right direction. That voice doesn't shout, it whispers. Questions. And those whispers can only be heard when the world is silent. Let's say you've been struggling with a decision, a career move, a relationship issue, or a life goal. You've talked to people, questions, analyzed it endlessly, but you still feel confused. Try waking up at 4 a.m., sit quietly with your thoughts, breathe deeply, and just listen. Don't force an answer. Just connect. In that stillness, questions, you'll find that clarity begins to form on its own. Because your soul already knows the answer. You just need silence and spiritual space to hear it. Questions. There's a beautiful story about a student who once asked his spiritual master, Guruji, why do you always wake up before dawn? The master smiled and said, questions. Because that's when God listens closest. Whether you believe in God energy or simply the power of peace, the truth remains. The universe responds to the state of your spirit. And at 4 a.m., questions. That spirit is most alive. It's not just about praying or meditating. It's about feeling connected. You can sit quietly by the window, sip tea, watch the stars fade, and the sun begin its journey. Questions. That too is a form of prayer. Being grateful, being aware, being alive. When you do this regularly, something shifts within you. You begin to carry that calm into your entire day. Questions. Your tone becomes gentler, your reactions slower, and your presence peaceful. You stop being easily disturbed because you start your day from your spiritual center, not from chaos. Questions. Even your body benefits from this connection. Science now at meditation, that gratitude and early rising improve not just mental clarity, but immunity, blood pressure, and emotional balance. Questions. But beyond the science, there's a beauty to it. The feeling of being part of something vast, something divine. You start seeing ordinary things differently. The sunlight, the trees, questions. Even your own breath feels sacred. In today's world, we often chase outer achievements. money, status, recognition. But the greatest achievement is inner peace. You can't buy it, fake it, questions, or post it on social media. You have to build it quietly, consistently each morning. Waking up at 4 a.m. gives you that foundation. It's your daily meeting with your soul, questions, your appointment with your own higher self. And once you begin that practice, you'll realize that everything else, success, confidence, balance, flows naturally from it. Sometimes people say, questions, I'll meditate when I have time. But the truth is, you get time when you meditate. Because spiritual energy doesn't just give peace, it gives power. Questions, the kind of power that makes you productive without pressure, confident without arrogance, and kind without weakness. So, the next time your alarm rings at 4 a.m. and your mind says, questions, sleep, remember this, your spirit is calling you to wake up. The world outside may be asleep, but your inner world is waiting to awaken. Step into that moment. Sit in stillness. Breathe. Feel. Questions. Connect. You don't have to chant mantras or read scriptures if that's not your path. Just be present. Watch how your heart begins to glow quietly, how your worries seem smaller. Questions. How peace becomes your natural state. That's not magic, that's spiritual energy working through you. And as the first light of dawn touches your face, questions, remind yourself, this is not just another morning. This is a sacred opportunity, a chance to rise not only from your bed, but from your limitations. Because when you wake up with the universe, questions, the universe wakes up within you. And that is when you truly start to live. Questions. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to make promises to yourself at night, but how hard it is to keep them in the morning? At 10 p.m. your mind says, tomorrow I'll wake up early, exercise. Questions, meditate, eat healthy. It all sounds so possible. But when the alarm rings at 4 a.m., suddenly your bed feels softer, the blanket feels warmer, and your dreams seem far more important than your goals. Questions. That's when the real battle begins. Not between you and the alarm clock, but between your desires and your discipline. And every time you win that small battle, your willpower grows stronger. Questions. Waking up early is not just a habit, it's training for your mind. Think of it like going to the gym, not for your body, but for your determination. Each morning you rise before the sun. Questions. You lift the weight of comfort off your shoulders. You prove to yourself that you can do what's difficult. And the more you do it, the stronger that mental muscle becomes. Questions. Willpower is like a muscle. If you use it, it expands. If you neglect it, it weakens. Let's take a simple example. Questions. Imagine two people are given the same task, to climb a hill every morning for 30 days. The first person does it only when they feel like it. The second person does it every single day. Questions. No matter the weather, no matter how tired they are. After a month, who do you think has stronger legs and a stronger mind? The one who didn't depend on feelings, but on commitment. Questions. The same rule applies to life. Feelings fluctuate, but discipline builds stability. When you wake up at 4 a.m., you are not just fighting sleep, you are declaring to yourself. Questions. I am in control of my life. Most people wake up because they have to, the clock, the boss, the school, the deadline. But when you wake up because you choose to, that's empowerment. Questions. You stop living on autopilot and start living on purpose. That small decision to rise before the rest of the world plants a message deep inside you, I can do hard things. Questions. And that belief changes everything. Willpower is built on small victories. Each morning when your mind says, just 5 more minutes, and you choose to get up anyway. Questions. You're winning a silent war. You're proving to yourself that your goals matter more than your comfort. And those victories don't stay in the morning. They spill into every part of your day. Questions. Suddenly it becomes easier to say no to distractions, to stick to your diet, to stay focused on your work. Why? because you've already proven to yourself that you can do what's difficult. Questions. Let's take a relatable daily life scenario. Imagine you're trying to build a new habit, maybe studying for an exam, writing a book, or learning a skill. In the evening, you plan it all out. Questions. But by the next day, you're too busy, too tired, too distracted. The willpower you had the night before seems to have disappeared. But when you wake up at 4 a.m., questions, the distractions haven't started yet. The world is quiet, your phone isn't ringing. No one needs you. It's just you and your goals. Questions. And that solitude gives you a sacred window to strengthen your focus and your self-control. Willpower is not something you are born with. It's something you build. Questions. And the best time to build it is when no one is watching. At 4 a.m., there's no applause, no validation, no competition. It's just pure self-respect. You do it because you promise yourself. Questions. And the more you keep those promises, the more confidence you build. Self-doubt fades when self-discipline rises. Think of athletes, soldiers, questions, or spiritual leaders, people known for extraordinary discipline. They don't start their day when the world does, they start it when the world sleeps. Not because they love waking up early, questions, but because they love who they become through it. They understand that comfort never builds character. Strength is built in the hours when it's easiest to quit. Questions. There's also a psychological reason why early mornings boost willpower. Throughout the day, your decision-making energy depletes. Every choice you make, big or small, uses mental energy. Questions. By the evening, your willpower is low, but in the morning, your mental energy is fresh, you're rested, your mind is clear, and your focus is sharp. Questions. That's why tasks that feel impossible at night seem easier at dawn. You're using your strongest hours to tackle your most important battles. Let me share a small story. Questions. A young man once complained to his mentor, "I want to be disciplined, but I keep losing motivation." The mentor smiled and said, "You don't lose motivation, you lose energy." Questions. Motivation is like fire, it burns bright only when there's fuel. The fuel is discipline. The mentor told him, "Start by waking up 1 hour earlier." Not to work. Questions. Not to study, just to train your mind to obey you. The young man tried it. In a few weeks, he noticed a shift, not just in his mornings, but in his entire mindset. He felt stronger, calmer, questions, more in control. He realized that willpower doesn't come from waiting for motivation. It comes from doing what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it. Questions. Each early morning becomes a lesson in resilience. It teaches you to rise not only from sleep, but also from excuses. It reminds you that growth begins when comfort ends. Questions. Every time you resist that soft voice that says, "Stay in bed," you awaken the louder voice within that says, "I'm capable." And when you learn to listen to that voice, questions, no obstacle in life feels too heavy to lift. Willpower, when built daily, becomes your invisible strength. It makes you trustworthy, not just to others, but to yourself. Questions. You stop saying, "I'll try," and start saying, "I will." You begin to rely on consistency, not emotion. And that consistency becomes your power. So, tomorrow morning, questions. When the alarm rings and your body pleads for 5 more minutes, remember, this is not about sleep. It's about strength. Every minute you choose discipline over desire. Questions. You add another brick to the foundation of your success. You may not see the results immediately, but one day, questions, you'll look back and realize that your entire life changed because you decided to win one small battle at dawn. Willpower isn't built in a day, it's built daily. And the earlier you start, questions, the stronger you become. Because when you learn to master your mornings, you don't just wake up early, you wake up powerful.